We're now getting the first reports from people who have spent the night in the Bibby Stockholm. I've got to get that right. The Bibby Stockholm. People have now spent the first night there, and they've spoken to reporters from the BBC and so on. One person said, "Our room is small. We can't even put clothes in the closet for one person. It's like a prison here. The sound of locks and security checks makes it feel like I'm entering Alcatraz. It's terrible. They're wanting to house 500 people here." So they've only put 15 people in there, and yet it's quite clear from the reports that at least 2 of them are already sharing bunk beds. My roommate, says this person, panicked in the middle of the night and felt like he was drowning. There were people among us who have been given heavy drugs for depression by the doctor here. Though there's another person who said that he had eaten a good breakfast, including eggs, cheese, jam, and butter. The accommodation, it's a smallish area, which somebody has said is smaller than the average parking space, but it has a desk, twin bunk beds, ensuite, heating, windows, and wardrobe space. And it's designed to cut back on the $6 million a day that the government is otherwise spending on hotel accommodation. We've got to remember that it was Rishi Sunak who said, well, why can't we put them in boats? And he was laughed out of the cabinet originally. That's some years ago. And now this is the Bibby Stockholm is one of a number of barges which was supposed to be lining up around the UK in rivers, in seaports, to house asylum seekers. And they use apparently ID cards, and they have to pass through airport-style security to get on and off the barge, and then they are forced to take a bus, a shuttle bus, to the airport exit. And there's trained guards, CCTV, there's around 60 staff on board, there's 24/7 security. And Care for Calais say they're providing legal support for the 20 asylum seekers who refused to board. But for those who actually did board, those 15 who actually got on, they talk about squeezing onto the barge, and this reminds one of them of the experience of hiding from the Islamic State, from ISIS. We're all running away from war, trauma, and conflict, he says. We're looking for more space. So if you put me and squeeze me into a smaller space, you are putting me back into that small room where I was hiding when ISIS was attacking our area. So it just reminded me again that we were in a 2-meter by 2-meter room and ISIS troops were around and you have to hide. The Economic Secretary to the Treasury, I don't know why he's important, Andrew Griffiths, has said that moving on board the barge was not a choice. Well, I think it is a choice if you have that level of PTSD because of the experience of being locked in a small space. If you want to put somebody in prison, then you have to charge them with a crime. But putting somebody in a prison-like situation simply because they have appealed for asylum, being put in something that reminds us of the Victorian-era hulks, the Bibby Stockholm is a shameful way to house people who have fled terror, conflict, and persecution. And the assumption which advocates like Lee Anderson are making, that these are all illegal migrants. Well, the point that the government has already made, which Lee Anderson surely is well aware of, is that the people who are being housed in the Bibby Stockholm are people whose applications have already progressed. Now, that doesn't say very much, because we now learn that the initial interviews by the Home Office are conducted by people who have only just got jobs in the Home Office and who have had these jobs advertised on the street. That yesterday they were probably doing the till in Asda, and today they are assessing migrants and going through a tick box of questions which are unchanging. So those questions can be taken by lazy lawyers and given to prospective migrants so they know what they're going to expect when they get here, so they have their answers prepared. So the whole thing, whether you want a fair system or whether you want to play the system, it doesn't matter which side of the argument you're on, you're going to find the Home Office at fault. Because the Home Office is lazy and isn't doing its job properly. Now, my own personal position, and I like the Home Office, I find I'm getting attacked by both sides. My own personal position is that we need to control migration, and we need to do that by doing it on an international basis. And that beyond that, we need to reach out to those places where smugglers and people traffickers are operating and set up consular facilities so that people can make their initial application there. And this is simply building on the humanitarian visa application, which was proposed by Tony Blair. I also think that in order to get back to break down the backlog, we should be giving migrants the opportunity to work and to pay their own way and to rent accommodation for themselves if they are here. That possibility is there after migrants have been here for over a year, I think 18 months or something. But that should be brought forward to a month or so, and we should process people so that they can then have the dignity of contributing to their own lives, to finding their own space, and they will be fully documented and paying tax. And I think that would be a positive. I think also the idea that they can only do certain jobs is absurd. The Home Office is clearly designing this to spend as much money as it possibly can and then to whinge about it. So I don't believe this is a problem which has come out of the blue for the Home Office. I believe this is a problem that the Home Office have manufactured for themselves as a diversion from the real problems that the present government is overseeing. And as such, therefore, it is an extraordinary deceit. And Alex Chalk understands, Alex Chalk, the Justice Secretary, understands why the Deputy Chairman of the Conservative Party should use foul language to describe the migrant issue and should say, well, if you don't like the barge, you can F off back to France. Not only foul language, but also effectively xenophobic or racist language. But this, as we know, or as I know, has inspired others. So thank you to the Deputy Chairman of the Conservative Party for the leadership that you have provided already. It's already evident, at least in my life, on Twitter, and thank you very much for that. That is about as far as I go with sarcasm.